there's been a number of times that parents have wanted to do something and really make it special, and it's like the kid doesn't care, and like you're kind of doing it more for the parent and the parent's memories and the parent's stories.
Yeah, but the parent wasn't in to see it.
Which makes it especially dumb that the parent wasn't even there to witness this.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Highs for approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dal.
Dal.
W. Dal Bush.
Happy birthday to Dal.
Hey, that's right. It's my birthday today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick.
And I think probably the best part about this being your birthday when we're recording is that by the time anybody finds out about it, it's way too late for them to wish you a happy birthday.
I wouldn't say it's way too late. I mean, people can still wish me happy birthday, but it will obviously mean significantly less.
Sure.
Just like basically a slap in the face.
See, I'm very much I'm sorry. If my birthday was days ago, don't wish me happy birthday. Like, people can do it in advance.
I think the statute of limitations for me is usually about 7 days.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty generous like that. That's
but
one
it's
of my positive attributes as a human being.
It's a rapidly declining scale. So, like, on the seventh day, they're wishing you 1/7 of a happy birthday.
It depreciates pretty rapidly.
Is it equal amount 24. Per day, or does it, like...
No, it's like a multiplier.
Okay.
Like, the day after is like, you're like 90%. And then a day after that is like, you're at like 70%. And the day after that is like, you're like 30%.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So by the 8th day, it's negative.
8th day is 0.
Or they just
7 days.
They're just very early for the next year.
That would be super weird.
It is true when it's somebody's birthday in the store, or someone is family there and they're buying stuff for a kid, and they're like, "Oh, it's birthday Friday." We'll say, "Oh, happy early birthday."
Sure.
But I personally don't like wishing people a happy birthday before or after, especially after if I messed it up.
Sure. Yeah, after is definitely weirder. Before is usually like, oh, I didn't know, and hey, happy birthday. I hope it's a good one. Blah, blah, blah. But afterwards is very like, oh, the happy birthday. But, I mean, it's like wishing someone a Merry Christmas in January. It's like, you can do it. It's just weird.
So, anybody special wish you a happy birthday today?
AEW referee Bryce Remsburg wished me a happy birthday.
Oh, how nice of him.
It was very nice of him. The one thing I will dispute is that he had said in a very kind birthday wish video that at times when he hears a voice in his head saying, get control of the match, get control of the wrestlers in the match that are out of control, he didn't realize that was me saying that. It was me sending that message to him. But that is not what I tell Bryce Remsburg to do. I do not tell him to get control. I usually tell him, Bryce, you're going to count? You're going to count when they're outside the ring? No? Okay. One. Great.
I've heard
Bryce.
You say, Bryce, get control.
I think Bryce Remsburg is a terrific referee, and I don't know that I've criticized his performance as an AEW official very much at all. Not usually where my concern lies.
And he's Taz's favorite ref.
It's true, and he does hate him. He thinks he's sketchy. What referees do you like? Who's your favorite referee? Yeah, Bryce. Bryce Remsburg, if that is his real name. It actually is.
Bryce does try his very, very best. I believe he told you that.
Yeah, I believe him.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Happy birthday from me.
Thank you.
And Bryce.
Thank you. I mean, I thought it was just Bryce. I had no idea you had anything to do with it.
No, I'm just saying.
Look at you taking credit for Bryce's hard work.
I'm just saying, along with Bryce wishing you happy birthday.
My good friend Bryce Remsburg.
I am also wishing you happy birthday.
Using you as the intermediary, and here you are trying to claim some sort of reflected glory off of it.
If you would let him have your phone number, he wouldn't need me.
It's tacky. Got a cousin who apparently doesn't even have my phone number.
Who also has a birthday today.
Who has the same birthday as me. Shout out to my cousin Millie.
Same age?
Younger.
What's it like to be younger?
I would have to remember what it was like yesterday.
When it was yesterday in the store at the end of the day, and it was the very end of the day,
Yeah.
and I had mentioned to two people who were in the shop at the time that it was your birthday tomorrow, and they wished
I
me
think
happy
I
birthday.
had said it was my birthday.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, because I basically, long story short, a very late UPS double delivery
Oh yes, that is right.
surfaced a box of cookies that an aunt had sent me as a birthday gift, and I was excited to see them because I knew I'd be talking to my aunt the next day, and I did not want to have to tell her, no, the cookies didn't show up yet, and I'm also not working for the next 2 days, so I don't know like when I'm going to get them. Maybe next week, I don't know. But luckily they showed up, and there were two folks there, and I had explained to them that these were a birthday gift from my aunt because it was my birthday coming up, and they wished me a happy birthday.
And guessed that you were 47.
They guessed, and that was an incorrect guess.
They guessed 47 because I held up a sign that said 46. He's so old.
I assumed you were throwing up like
Gang signs behind
yeah,
your head.
like a Diamante thing. We're just like, and it's like, oh, okay, 4 and 6.
I would never do the Diamante signs. Dal, I'm not from LA,
No, or Miami, or
And,
Miami Gardens,
but
or
there's
Tampa.
but there's no signs for Tampa or Miami Gardens, and I don't
I'm sure there are.
only that she throws up.
Yeah, that's true.
Only one AEW wrestler is allowed to use her main hand sign, and it's not her.
She's not allowed to use her main hand sign?
Correct. It's Kenny's. It's how Kenny signs off every show.
Oh. Good night, smooch. Goodbye, bang.
But also, I don't like that specific imagery.
I see.
It's not what I'm about.
They had one evening for AEW where it was I think it was a charity night for
Fight for the Fallen.
yeah, it was a kind of a gun control or something. Basically, the whole point of it was to stop school shootings and gun control and that sort of stuff, if memory serves. And so Kenny was going to sign off the night with his usual good night, smooch, goodbye, bang. But then he was like, I can't do the gun thing. I gotta do something else.
And he also thought he was just doing that to a live crowd, not realizing that it was still being broadcast.
It was being recorded for broadcast.
That's fine. But I'm less about that type of iconography and more about comics, Dal.
Comic books, baby.
Comic books. Hooray! Let's talk about
Let's do it.
things that happened during the week that influenced the way we, in fact, run our business. But I have to start with some podcast bad news.
Oh no.
Yeah, this affects literally everyone listening, because I'm assuming everyone who's listening to this right now is listening to this exclusively on Samsung Podcasts. That's their chosen podcast app.
Definitely the one I am always using.
Yeah, you listen to all your podcasts from Samsung, right?
Every podcast I listen to on the Samsung podcast app.
Now, Samsung, of course, not a sponsor of this podcast, but I do have a Samsung television,
Oh yeah.
and I want to say some other appliance,
Probably like a range, maybe.
something. I don't know. That might be an LG. Anyway, Samsung is shuttering the Samsung podcasts.
Oh, god damn it.
That's it. In December, it goes away.
Wow.
Now, they're still going to have a news app for all the people that get their news from Samsung.
Sure. Which I'm sure is also everyone listening to this.
But the sheer number of podcast apps that this podcast is a part of, it's like my band, The Divorce Gun. When we release a song or an album, it goes up on so many streaming services that I'd never heard of,
Yeah.
because we have a company that distributes it for us,
You kind of have to.
and they reach, I believe the number is 64 different platforms.
It's too many.
It's too many by 60.
Yeah, at least.
Unfortunately, the one that we released this earlier this year still hasn't been approved for iTunes. No matter what changes we make, it's really, really weird. But it's on 63 other sites.
Weird.
One of the places it got approved for was TikTok, but I cannot find this music to use it on TikTok.
Oh,
and I
no.
filmed the TikTok specifically with the a song from that album, from that EP, and as the backdrop, and I can't find it.
God damn it.
So when I just used the song in the video myself, they denied it, saying I didn't have the rights to use that song. But the point is, there are so many streaming services for music and audio that I have no idea what they are.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's using them. And I wonder what makes someone who listens to podcasts have chosen Samsung as their
It's very weird.
chosen platform.
Because you got to feel like a lot of podcasts probably don't end up on the Samsung podcast app. You
Yeah.
know, like it.
Well, the reason we're on it
Mhm.
is it's the same kind of thing, because we use Libsyn as a podcast distribution company.
Okay.
And from their platform, you can choose all of these other.
Sure. It's just a
Avenues.
checkbox, I'm sure.
You have to put in RSS feeds and stuff like that.
Okay.
But like, or on iHeartRadio,
No, sure.
all sorts of other podcast options.
Mhm.
And Samsung was always one of them. But again, I don't know. And it's considerably less than 64 like it is for music. But again, I wonder what, and I know a lot of people listen to this on Patreon,
No, okay.
and Patreon really pushes us to like, hey, release your podcast episodes here.
Mhm.
Like, make this a podcast. Put this out, not as an audio clip, but as a podcast. Like, I can't. This isn't the version that the patrons get on Patreon
Mhm.
is not the final podcast version.
Right.
They get the unedited audio,
Sure.
so it's not an official episode.
Yeah.
And that's what we had a big problem with. Gosh, I can't remember who it was. Spotify, I think, is at a certain point Spotify started pulling the patron feed,
Oh,
which is the wrong one.
yeah.
We're just grateful that it's a problem that we have, that people have so many different options
It's true.
to listen to this. And sometimes we can take it for granted a little bit that we do have listeners
Sure.
or viewers.
I guess.
Ultimately,
I don't think about it. I honestly don't.
and you shouldn't, but this particular situation, it was presented to us insofar as everything we do online or even this very podcast is to generate interest and ultimately income in the store.
Yes.
The podcast we've always said it was started as a way to keep challengers with you when you're not in the store.
Okay.
An added value at the time, like your
Sure.
digital download from a Marvel comic, which was
Oh.
prevalent at the time.
Yes.
I mean, they still do it now, but
They still do.
when we do weekly videos in the store, anything we put online is to remind you that we exist, show you what we have, and hopefully get you to come into the store,
Yes.
specifically to hopefully buy something that you've seen on the feed. But most product posts are the ones that do the worst as far as engagement goes.
I'd assume. I mean, people tend not to engage so much with the idea of like, hey, here's a thing you can get, or here's a new thing that came in. They want, someone makes a comment or someone films a video or whatever.
Today, Matthew Rosenberg had a post on Facebook specifically for retailers,
Mhm.
but to make sure it got in front of as many viewers as possible, it was punctuated with a photo of a pug stretched out on a deck.
Nice.
And that's what
That's
a
what
lot
you
of
want.
people even do, say, hey, here's this important thing I want to talk about, photo of a puppy for the algorithm,
Mhm.
which we're bad at doing.
Sure.
But what we are also bad at doing is being recognized in public.
Yeah, it's happened a few times, and it's always a little weird. I think the time it was the strangest. I don't know why. I was at Chipotle near where I lived at the time,
That's on point.
and a customer recognized me, and it's fine. Just the hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm getting my food. I'm gonna go. But then I kind of got roped into a conversation. And it just felt very. I wasn't a fan of it. It felt like I had to be on. It felt like I had to be
Doing your job, kind of.
representing the store. And it's just like I literally just want to take my quesadillas and go. I'm hungry and I want to leave.
How many times have we been in public in the neighborhood that the store is in,
Uh huh.
and people say, hey, it's the Challengers guys,
Yep.
things like that.
I once had someone shout at me from their car to ask me when Rick and Morty issue 2 was coming out. I actually had an answer for them, so I shouted back.
I don't think Ask Your Mom was an answer.
That's the one they got.
So today, for Dal's birthday, we went around, I was going to say the city, but we went far out of the city to visit some toy stores.
Yeah. Specifically ones that we had not been to before, or at least I had not been to before.
I had been to one of them.
Yeah.
And we were out at Smash Toys out in Niles, and were recognized from our Facebook videos.
I always assume it's you being recognized and me being recognized additionally afterwards. I don't think I have as memorable a face as you do.
He did not specifically point out one of us. It was just...
I just said what my assumption is.
Okay. Yeah. I, in fact, did get an article photocopied or cut out of the newspaper with a photocopy of a Challenger's bookmark in the mail to the store from my aunt yesterday, because the person who had, and I didn't read the article out of spite. It was about an art installation maybe, but the person the artist had glasses and a long white beard. And my aunt said, a long lost brother, perhaps?
How nice of her.
This person was bald.
Okay.
And like, really, that's all it is glasses and a beard. That's all you need. A white beard.
Yep.
This is the terrible season for that.
It really is, unfortunately. I hate to say it. You're going to spend about 5 weeks hearing about it.
And I should have texted my aunt immediately. This is a podcast about our aunts today, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
I should have texted my aunt to say, hey, I got your thing, but I don't want to because I thought it was unnecessary and didn't need to be sent, nor was it not funny.
Ooh. Rough.
So now, by the time I eventually do get back to her, she'll realize that I would have gotten it days before and be annoyed I didn't respond right away. Oh, family dynamics. Isn't it great?
They're nuts.
Isn't it great how every gesture is an obligation in some aspect? Anyway, we went looking at toy stores. Basically, when we say toy stores, obviously we can't mean Toys R Us because we don't live in Canada.
I would go.
Is that what you wanted to do today? I'm sorry,
I did not want to go to Canada.
I'm sorry. I didn't. We could have
not what I wanted.
Had lunch with Brian Garside.
Oh, yeah.
And gone Toys R Us shopping.
Sure.
But, secondhand stores, used toy stores, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, vintage toy shops.
Vintage, there you go.
Any of those work.
And at the second store, they had the John Cassaday Wolverine, costumed Wolverine, which we've ordered, but I didn't even know it was out yet. And I saw it on the shelf, and I said, hey, how much is that? And he's like, oh, $35. And I'm like, meh, I'm going to let it go. And I had a small stack going on the counter already, which was...
Can I start a pile, as Ethan Page once famously put it on his toy vlog?
Right. Which is a thing I always do in stores like that. I had Nick and Mac Jackson, the Young Bucks. I'm
sorry, Patrick. It's Nicholas and Matthew Jackson. It's what it says on their I can't remember, their passports, their government IDs.
It's
their God-given names
on the package. These individual packages.
The Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada.
That's what it says on his government issued ID.
His God-given name.
So anyway, I had a small pile going, and it had
You're getting fined.
two wrestling figures, and then I said, "Hey, can I put these on the counter?" And after I asked the Wolverine question, there's a bunch. This was at Quake, and there were a bunch of used figures, just stood up on shelves behind the front counter. So I'm looking, and he goes, "So is that what you're into, Wolverine variants?" And I said, "No."
Yes, you are, Patrick. You love them so much.
Because he also said, hey, we got the Deadpool from that wave. And I just go, hey, thanks, I'm not a Deadpool guy. He's like, is that you're into Wolverine variants? I'm like, you took those two wrestling figures from me and put them down.
Oh, so you need a Brian Cage, this Wolverine?
Exactly. So what I'm looking for when we go to these stores is just something that jumps out at me.
Sure.
Like, I already have other Young Bucks figures, but I don't have these costumes, and they were at a good price.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to be at any sort of vintage or secondhand or used toy shop is just kind of being open to the experience rather than going in with like a list of stuff, because you're bound to be disappointed at that point. Like, have an idea kind of what you're looking for, things that you grab if you find them. But yeah, if you just go in thinking like here's the 8 Marvel Legends I'm looking for, it's like, well, they're probably not going to have those. You're better off just going online and buying them then.
What I picked up at Smash Toys was an original carded Captain America Toy Biz figure from the 90s. And they actually had 2. So I got to choose which one had the better packaging, because this specific toy I'm not going to open because I already have a loose one.
Yeah.
But I think it's neat to have this Captain America still in the package.
Yeah, those 90s Toy Biz figures.
And they've done a reissue recently, based off of that. But this is the original with the shield launcher. So I got that, knowing I'm not going to open it, which is a very weird concept for me as far as toy buying goes. I picked up a Nightfall Batman McFarlane figure because it's the most classic Batman that I think of. It's like, when I think of Batman, I think of Jim Aparo drawing it, and it was basically that suit, even though it uses Kelly Jones artwork on the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have never said, like, oh, I'm going to buy a Batman action figure today.
Right.
And also a $5 Gene Simmons ornament, because I already have the Paul Stanley ornament from that set. I'm like, you know what? I'll spend $5 for that.
Sure.
And then at Quake, I got the Matthew and Nicholas. I got a loose Deathlock.
With no guns.
With no guns, but I have other guns I can give him. And I may, in fact, have that Deathlock already, but it's the classic Luther Manning Deathlock. And after
Demolisher.
Having just finished the Deathlock Chronicles from Tom Brevoort Substack.
That's why I knew that.
Yeah. Deathlock the Demolisher. I got that because he's got the American flag.
Yeah.
He's got the vertical piping.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked him up. And then they had, I'd never seen this Marvel Comics holiday pop vinyl. They've done a bunch of different waves over the last couple of years. And the first Captain America they did was a snowman. Well, this was that snowman, but entirely in white.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is actual snowman-like.
Yeah.
And he was $6. So I got him.
Perfect.
So that's split between Smash and Quake.
Mm-hmm.
But at both stores, we were recognized.
Again, you were recognized and I was with you.
You say that, but you're the one who picked the stores.
It's true. Well, there's only so far you really want to go, especially because today was Blizzard. And then...
Yeah, the trip to Smash should have been like 40 minutes, but it was an hour and 10.
Yeah, it felt like it took forever. And then, like, the thing is, you want it to be a store that feels like it's going to have stuff you want. Like, it can't just be like a toy store. You've got to see some pictures and be like, okay, they have Marvel Legends, they have Transformers, they have whatever. And, the kind of cross-section of store I've not been to and store that has a bunch of good stuff, there's not a lot of those. You can do a Google search and it's like, there's just not a lot in the city. So yeah, we were pretty far out to go to Smash and then loop back to hit Quake.
We were going to hit Throwback on the way, which used to be Times Past, but now it's called Throwback.
Hmm.
But by that point, the day had gone long.
Yes.
And I'd been there before and bought you a present there before as well.
You did, it's true. I have a vintage Megatron that you picked up for me. Yeah, it was late enough in the day and we still had a podcast to record, so it just felt like, So we went to 2 stores, we did good.
We didn't do all the toy shopping or the record shopping we're going to do today, so you could have this podcast.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
But we were recognized in both stores. The very kind gentleman at Smash said we were internet famous. He watches the videos. He's taken ideas from our store for his store.
Please do.
Yeah, nothing we have done is so revolutionary or proprietary that nobody can't do it themselves.
No.
You're more than welcome to it. The guy working at Quake asked us what the pick of the week was this week.
It's Jeff Venamore.
He did say at the comic shop, he didn't say Challengers, right?
I don't think he said that.
I don't think he said Challengers. That's fine. But it's weird because you just want to be... It's like often when I'm grocery shopping and I'm checking out, inevitably, why do I say invariably? The cashier will look at one of the things I'm buying and pick it up and say, oh, how is this? usually for the vegetarian stuff, like
Sure.
the Morningstar Farm stuff and whatever. And I just feel like I don't want to talk to you about the food I'm buying.
I know we've talked about this in regards to kind of how we have to do things in the store versus how we prefer things to be when we're shopping at stores. But like at Challengers, you know, you kind of have to start a conversation. You have to, you know, find some reason to be cordial, to be communicative, to kind of get a dialogue going so that people have a positive experience. And yet, if anyone does that to me at a store, a positive experience is the last thing I'm having. If I have to spend a bunch of time talking about like how's the store doing or like what comics are good right now when I'm at, you know, any place other than Challengers, it's like I don't want to do this.
I personally hate when you're at a restaurant and you have a server, you have a bus person, and then you have a server. Then the manager will come over. Hey, how's everything going
How's
tonight?
everything tonight?
I hate that. I hate that so
what
much.
What are we here for?
Leave me
Special
alone.
occasion?
Let me eat. You've got someone taking
Uh-huh.
care of us. I don't want you to.
I want your staff to be invisible. Thank you.
I find that so annoying.
Yeah,
I don't want to
it's not
engage
great.
the manager when I'm trying to have my food. But specifically, the gentleman from Smash said that we're internet famous.
It was very weird to hear.
Yeah. And this was as the transaction was done. And I did watch you slowly inching to the door. You're like, come on, come on. But he wanted to say nice things about
Right,
us,
which is
which-
very, very
yeah,
considerate and
of
very
course.
kind. Least we
course.
can do is be there and be grateful for it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Being at Quake is a little overwhelming
Yeah,
because they use every inch of space.
every vertical inch of space.
Luckily, I was shopping for toys today with someone who is considerably taller than I am and could reach things on the top peg. So I could say, hey, can you tell me what outfit Matt Jackson is in?
Mhm.
See, they had a loose Nick Jackson in a black and purple and yellow outfit in a glass case, but he wasn't priced.
Right.
And he was also like in a like McDonald's pint glass or something.
Sure.
And I saw the Matt Jackson I just saw the name on the gold lettering on the side of the package. So I needed to see if he was the same outfit to match.
Because they've done the Young Bucks at least 4 different times
Yeah.
over the years in AEW figures. And I say over the years, but they've only been releasing figures for like 4 years. But they do the Young Bucks a lot. They've done so many different ring gears for them. And yet they still haven't done their Succession gear yet.
It's at least 5 if you count the Street Fighter stuff.
Sure, which was an option.
Yeah. Had they had a Kenny Omega in a Street Fighter gear, I would have bought that.
Yeah.
I buy all Kennys. They had a loose Kenny in his street clothes behind the counter, but I have that one.
Okay.
And I buy all the Hangman Adam Pages.
Mm.
I don't know why, but those are the two I like whenever there's new one. Like, I'll buy those. But I will probably get the Bucks and Succession gear when it comes out.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because you got to assume that when the Bucks eventually return, they're probably not going to be in that gear anymore. I feel like they're going to have a different gear, a different thing. Because the Succession stuff was very like, you know, the asshole EVPs, the Elite, all that stuff. And that's done. Like, that storyline's over.
So yes, Internet Famous, you're all welcome.
Internet famous.
Autographs are available upon request.
We will sign any Sunny action figures that are already signed.
It's also only $20.
I definitely think that when it was priced, they did not realize it was signed, and then when they realized it, didn't care.
Also,
It was just like 20
she's
bucks.
currently in jail for killing someone.
Oh my god, is she really?
Well, drunk driving,
Oh
but
my
still
god,
killed someone.
still
Yeah.
Doesn't make it better.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Last Saturday, a gentleman came into the store, and he
His
said,
name was Tony Fleece.
yeah, actually, but that's a different part of this podcast.
Okay.
I didn't get this gentleman's name, but I got his son's names. But anyway, he said, hey, my sons are in the car. I want them to come in. I want you guys to make, it was me and Lizzie, I want you to make a big deal out of them being in the store. When they come in, I want you to greet them by name and say like, hi, Enrique. Hi, other son whose name I've forgotten. Welcome to Challengers. Like, because they're so excited. They've never been here before. And if you could just use their names, they'll get really excited. And also, he wanted to give us $20 to give each kid $10. When they've selected their things, they come up to buy things, we would take $10 off of each kid's purchases because they're special kids.
Mm-hmm.
Not because their dad gave us money ahead of time.
No.
We were not to say, this is from your dad.
Right.
They were supposed to think it's from us.
Right.
Which is weird.
It's a little weird, mostly because I feel like it sets up the precedent that
The expectation.
the challengers is just going to take money off when you come in because you're so good. So, like, the next time they come in, if we don't do that, do they think they're bad? Do they feel like
Right.
they did something wrong?
Yeah.
It's just weird.
The next time they come
it's just
in,
weird.
I'm not going to remember their names. I don't remember one of them now.
No.
And he's like, I'm going to go park the car, then we're going to come in. And when this conversation started, I was in Sidekicks doing something else. And then I came out halfway through, and Lizzie had explained most of it to me. And both of the boys' names started with E. For the life of me, I cannot remember the second one. What isn't it, Dow?
Hector.
It is not Hector.
No.
So I kept saying to Lizzie, Enrique and the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to remember this. They're going to walk in. I'm going to say, welcome, Hector. And because I said that out loud, all I can remember now is Hector.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
I did not.
I still remember Hector.
I
now.
did not call anyone Hector. And at the point the sons came in, because Lizzie had reminded me multiple times, I knew what their names were, but they came in first with no parent there. So we said, hey, welcome, Enrique. Welcome,
Hector.
Elphaba. And the kids didn't care that we said their names.
Nope.
Which we could have predicted.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a number of times that parents have wanted to do something and really make it special, and it's like the kid doesn't care. And like, you're kind of doing it more for the parent and the parent's memories and the parent's stories.
Yeah, but the parent wasn't in to see it.
Which makes it especially dumb that the parent wasn't even there to witness this.
Then the mom came in, then the dad came in. Then after a few minutes, one of them needed to use the restroom, which we don't have a public restroom, so they had to go to McDonald's.
Okay.
Then they had to come back. So I got to do the welcome back, Enrique, and other one again.
Hector.
And I wanted to say goodbye to them when they were leaving with their names, but I'd forgotten by that point. So I'm just like, yeah, thanks, everybody, goodbye. And I think I was cutting up boxes when they checked out, so Lizzie had to do the explanation of the $10.
Sure.
I walked back in and she's ringing the second one up. I'm like, did you do that? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. It was weird. Like, I wanted to give your kid a good experience, and I would love the fact that if that stuck with them and made it special, but we're special on our own.
Yeah, and it's a little weird when it's like a business you don't have a prior relationship with.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine going into a business cold for the first time and being like, hi, my kids are going to come in. Can you please make a big deal about it? Like, you don't know this business. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what else is happening. And like, it's very kind of you and Lizzie to accommodate them. But like, the expectation of that is kind of weird. Like, you didn't call ahead. You didn't email or anything. You just stopped in and said, hey, my kids are coming in 5 minutes. Please make a big deal about it. It's weird. Just a little weird.
When I came out of Sidekicks and he was saying something about names, I thought he meant the signing. And I point to the banner on the window and go, oh, you can tell their names because it's under their photos, so you can see who they are. They were not there for the signing whatsoever. So, yeah, it was a little... Lizzie's like, no, he means his kids.
Oh.
I'm like, whoops, sorry, I jumped in too soon. But then the $20 thing was confusing her, so I felt like, okay, you get the name half, I get the money half. We're good with that. So we did it, and I don't remember one of their names.
Yep.
And I could not tell you, if they were standing in front of me, which one was Enrique.
Sure.
I guarantee you now somebody's going to come in next week and be like, hey, can you call my kids by name?
Sure.
Yeah, but we'll make up the names. It's fine. There is actually a guy who shops with us who has a child who, for some reason, I always thought their name was Samantha.
Mm-hmm.
And after they've been coming there for a couple of years, they were in with like a Girl Scout troop.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been for the Lucy and Isley event or something.
Okay.
The bike ride one. And I called her Sam. And she's like, who's Sam?
Who isn't Sam?
And I just
Am I right?
I'd just be like,
gotta go.
Who said anything about Sam? You did. No, you just did. You said, who's Sam? You know, just to deflect the whole. But it turns out that child also has a tendency of changing what they want to be called regularly.
Okay.
Which I'm not saying their name ever was Sam, I just don't know why I thought that it was.
Yeah.
So the moral of my story is I'm not going to remember your kid's name.
No. No, it seems
Specifically yours.
okay. That's fair.
But yes, Dal, you are correct. We had Tony Fleece in last week.
Yes.
We had Tone Rodriguez, and we had Tim Seeley.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember an 80s group called
Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had Tony Tone Tim.
Yes.
When we were approached about being a Chicago stop on this tour, I thought, yeah, for sure. We love what Tony Fleece is doing. I love Local Man.
Mhm.
Uncanny Valley is a very entertaining read.
Mhm.
Pharaoh's great. Stray Dogs did really well for us.
Yes.
And longtime listeners of this podcast may know that we initially had a relationship with Tony Fleece because when they first announced Stray Dogs, we weren't necessarily kind to the idea on this podcast.
No, the early promotion was definitely not what we were looking for.
And at the same time, rats kept eating through wires in my engine, rendering my car useless.
Mm-hmm. You just turned it on in the morning and it didn't turn on.
And
You were like,
doesn't
oh,
turn
okay,
on.
now I can't get to work.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So Tony Fleece had heard that, had heard us talk about Stray Dogs, and heard about my car, sent me a care package to the store of mothballs to put all around the car and in the engine to keep rats away, and a note saying that Stray Dogs is not what we said it was, and that he's a legitimate lifer comic creator, this is not a cash grab.
Okay.
And I thought that was
I think I ended up grabbing some cash, though. I remember doing pretty well nationwide.
sure, but it wasn't
a cash grab.
Yeah. It's because to us it just sounded like we want this to be a movie kind of thing.
Maybe.
And well, that's what we'd said on the podcast at the time. And I thought, like, man, this guy went out of his way just to do this, to basically defend his credibility.
Yeah. Instead of rightly telling us to just fuck off, which he probably could have
every right to do.
Could have and should have done.
Yeah. So anyway, then we've gotten to know him and consider him a good person.
Yes.
So we're like, yeah, we'll definitely do a stop on the tour.
Sure.
For sure. And so the emails were coming from Tony Fleece, but they actually weren't. They were coming from his assistant, the person who's organizing the tour. So we'd volunteered to be part of the tour. But when the actual tour dates came out, it turns out that they were doing 3 other signings in the Chicago and Chicagoland area. Mm-hmm. And some of them, one of them was directly before us on the same day and for 50% longer than ours was scheduled for. Mm-hmm. So knowing that people had 4 chances basically to meet these guys.
Yes.
My expectations for turnout was kind of low.
Yeah.
If we were the only stop in Chicago, I can imagine people who don't shop with us going out of their way to come to this event to meet these people. But if they have 3 other options on 2 other days,
yeah,
I was worried about the turnout.
Sure.
But the turnout wound up being, if I may say, okay.
That's great.
Right?
Take that for a signing.
Like, it wasn't... I was getting worried because as it was getting closer, there wasn't really a line. But people showed up. And I told some people, like, don't come right away. Come like an hour into it. Mm-hmm. Then you'll have more time with them.
For sure.
And yeah, it was a solid, non-embarrassing turnout.
Excellent.
And I felt like it was worthwhile. We didn't really sell any of the merchandise we had specifically for the event.
Which is fairly typical for signings.
Especially when it's not with something new this week, you know? Right. When they're signing on stuff that's been out for a bit.
Right. When you're a stop on a tour, sometimes people are just going to have the stuff they've already bought, and that's it.
But we did sell other stuff during the day. And I do think that the signing had a positive impact on the day's sales totals.
Nice.
A lot of the signings we do lately have been smaller scale or local.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, sometimes those are bigger for us than having a more well-known name.
And sometimes when you have a well-known name, you're a little bit leery of how things are going to turn out. And we got incredibly lucky back in October by having AJ Mendez and Amy Garcia do a signing.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a whole podcast about me being stressed out about it ahead of time.
Right.
And it went really smooth. And that was a specific signing that was, we choose 2 hours for our signings.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a signing that, granted, it wasn't a hang out and chat with them signing. It was a meet them, get your book signed, have a little bit of personal time, move on.
Right.
And it lasted basically the 2 hours.
Great.
But they got through a lot of people in those 2 hours.
Yeah, they're professionals.
This time, while there were still people at the end of it, it was people that knew they could hang out and talk to them.
Yeah.
And there was somebody who brought a significant amount of things for them to sign and had also just been at the previous stop
Sure.
at the signing. But they're also a huge fan of all of Tony's previous work and work before any of the things we mentioned tonight.
Right.
Specifically the My Little Pony books,
Sure.
of which he wrote a lot of those. And this person was kind enough to do a stack, go to the back of the line. Do a stack, go to the back of the line. Like,
Right.
not just be like, hey, here's my milk crate full of books.
Right. Here's
Sign
100
them
things
all.
I need you to sign while everyone else is waiting.
Yeah.
Which is a little rude.
And so long as, Tony had long since posted, I'll sign anything, no limit. So fine.
Okay.
But we do like to know that ahead of time. Like, what, let us be the bad guy. What won't you do? What
Right.
won't, how many things you want to sign? At what level do you start charging, whatever you want to do.
Sure.
It's fine. And also, while we had a ton of books of theirs, they were selling their own stuff as well. So we let them set up everything on their table. And we just had our stuff at the front counter.
Sure.
So fine. Anyway, the moral of this is that it worked out well, and I was happy with how smoothly everything went.
Nice.
And I think it worked well. Like I said, well.
Great.
I'll stop saying well. Well.
That's good.
Thanks. That was Hawk
Ooh.
from. Yeah, sorry. It was Hawk. And those bring us. I was going to say those were. I don't know if anyone can tell. I've been having a hard time talking this entire podcast. I keep tripping over my words. I
Weird.
think I'm having a stroke, is what it is.
Oh, no.
I think I need a week off.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Not just from the podcast, just from everything.
Just from everything.
What I meant to say was this takes it to the end of the few things I had written down
I figured.
ahead of time. Have we talked about New Gods yet on this?
I don't believe we have, because I had just read it, I think, after the podcast last week.
Okay, so New Gods number 1,
Mhm.
coming up from the All-In Initiative from DC Comics,
Yep.
written by Rob V, drawn by Evan Cagle. It is 10 issues.
I think it's like 8 or 10, something like that.
It is
Not
less
12.
than 12. But it is one specific story they want to tell in the realm of the New Gods. And Dal, take it away.
I liked it. I thought it was a fairly accessible first issue. I think the creators are very strong. They have a clear idea of what they want to do and how they want to kind of meld the classic Kirby stuff with some of the more recent, like, Tom King stuff. So I think it works for people who are fans of either the original bombastic Kirby version or the more nuanced and depressing Tom King Mitch Gerads version. I liked it. I thought the first issue was good.
I feel like what they're doing is a Tom King concept with the Jack Kirby characters.
Sort of. I mean, it definitely tonally feels a lot closer to the Tom King stuff than the Kirby stuff, but they are not shying away from Evan Cagle, especially with the art, wants to do some of that big Kirby action. Like there's an Orion sequence that is very influenced by how Kirby would stage it, which is pretty cool. But it's a totally accessible book. If you didn't read Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerads, and you've never read any of the New God stuff by Kirby or any of the people who came after him, like Walt Simonson, you can still jump into this. They tell you what you need to know. It's not a series you should think too hard about, because I think just kind of getting washed in the vibes is probably the way to go with it. Just letting that like the mythology of it just sort of be too big is I think the perfect way to approach a book like that. And it was good. I enjoyed it and plan to read the rest of it.
Is there something else, another #1 coming out that same week?
Probably.
I thought, like, JSA came out. It's out already, right?
Yeah.
It came out the same week as another new All In, and I feel like
Batgirl.
okay, and I feel like God, there's another I can't remember.
Challenges of the Unknown, but I don't think they gave it to us.
Oh, I think it's up now.
I checked last night, didn't have it.
Okay, but yeah, I think it is Challengers. I think you're right.
Yeah, because those are both in the same email, and I was like, oh, I'll read that Challengers thing. Chris Cantwell. Nope, didn't give it to us.
Oh, okay. Whenever the headline is in an email, I assume like this
I
current one
assume
is,
so as well.
is Metamorpho, but it's not.
They don't give us every book at DC.
So how was Challengers?
It's
Great. It's the best
been
comic
around
shop
for
in the
16
city.
years. It's doing
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there was recently the Chicago Reader had the new this year's Best of nomination.
Oh, yeah?
And the way the nominations work is you just nominate, here's all the categories, type in whatever you want.
Okay.
Then from second week of December, I think, to sometime in January is the actual voting. And then in March is the winners.
Okay.
So no idea if we even make the nomination process. We have really strayed away from pushing that kind of stuff the last couple of years.
Yeah, there's younger stores that are more excited about it, and it would mean more to them. So, by all means, campaign for it, and I hope you get it. And I hope it's a boon to your business.
You know how much it means to me.
I don't think it means that much to you.
Just because it's never meant that much to you.
Yeah, it really hasn't.
The recognition of my peers is all I've ever wanted. No, that's not true.
No. You want the spotlight, I know.
Definitely don't. It's legitimately a discussion we had yesterday. I have been offered an opportunity to represent my favorite wrestling promotion in a game show format debate, and I haven't said yes or no to it because, as I said, I don't crave the spotlight, to which Dow made those kind of noises. And I said, when I'm promoting Challengers, it's a different thing. It's a work thing.
Sure. And then I cited several other non-Challengers things in Patrick's life over the last several decades.
Yeah, that's a lifetime ago.
Every single one of those turned out to be a random exception that should not have been brought up because it was irrelevant to the discussion at hand.
See, I'm glad that made it through. You understood that part.
I'm going to have
good.
a Rolo now.
That's good. But I think the last thing I want to do on my free time is argue with wrestling fans.
Would it be an argument? It's a debate.
It's
Patrick.
a debate. That's what a debate is.
Structured argument.
It's not the automatic gang saying of the opposite of what the person says. It can be. No, it can't.
Would you have
if
prepared
I argue with
thoughts
you,
about AEW, or
see,
would you?
That's what I asked, and it was recommended that be the case, and that is not how I roll
that's
at this
traditionally
point.
how a debate would be: is you would come in with
an opening statement,
and then maybe
and-
there'd be a back
yeah.
and forth afterwards. You wouldn't just be like, AEW is real good, and then wait for someone else to say no, it's not, and then you're like, well, here's how it is good.
I say, no, you're wrong. But it's such a matter of personal preference that you can't logic your way into, let me explain to you why Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world.
He might be the best wrestler in the world, but he's not the best wrestler alive. That's Max Caster, Platinum Max Caster. The best wrestler alive. He's got a jacket that says it, everything, Patrick.
If I had to name like the top 200 wrestlers, Max Caster would not be on that list.
Best wrestler alive. It says it right on the jacket. He fought over that jacket with MXM Collection, who are also very good right now.
Well,
I've really come around to them. When they came in, I was just like, I don't like these guys. Neither of these guys seem very good, and we don't need one more mediocre tag team that's only going to show up on Rampage or whatever. But then they gave them more like little segments and more backstage things and more stuff with Lexi Nair, and it was really funny. And they're really good, and they're getting over, I think, in the same way that like the Outrunners did, and before them the
do
Acclaim
you mean the
did.
youngest men alive?
The youngest men alive.
And way before any of them, the Dark Order.
If you haven't seen the Outrunners,
and
you haven't seen anything yet.
that,
What does that mean? If you're anything like me, and I know I am. just let Truth Magnum spit. Just let him just do his thing. Let him cook.
It seems to me like you should be the one on this program.
He's so good. I watch more AEW programming in a week than you do.
You do, so I'm going to tell Stella
Shit,
that
I
you're
watch
gonna
more
do this.
Dynamite in a week than you do.
That's true. It's very true. Yeah, okay. I'll tell Stella you'll take this,
I do even less Zoom meetings than you do, Patrick.
and that's one of the things.
My
that-
threshold is way lower on that than yours is.
Mine is 0.
Mine's lower.
They did say that there would be a Zoom meeting to talk about structure. That's what I'm like. Yeah, I'm probably out. I haven't said no to it, but I
You're
don't.
leaning towards.
I don't want to argue with wrestling fans. I don't do Zoom meetings, and also winter's coming.
Yes, an AEW event.
So those are 3 things. Why did I talk about this? I don't remember.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I can't remember how we got into that topic. That's very strange. I didn't. There hasn't been much in the way of PDFs and stuff. Again, we talked about New Gods, but
There was Metamorpho this week, but I haven't read it yet.
I think the problem we're going to be finding over the next few weeks is a lot of stuff that we'd be getting sent at this point is going to be stuff for January, and nothing's coming out in January. So there's not really much reason to send us stuff when it's lower tier titles.
Well, it's not
or
that
stuff
nothing's
that,
coming
that
out.
doesn't need to be pitched.
You know, there's going to be great issues
Ultimate
of the
Wolverine.
Absolute books.
Very excited. This week we got coming up both Absolute Wonder Woman #2 and the 3rd printing of Absolute Batman #1. Giving people a chance to read the next installment of my favorite Absolute book and also read the first issue of the biggest Absolute book if they haven't had a chance yet.
It's funny because we had...
I was notified that we just sold out of the Absolute Batman Noir edition.
Yeah, so
today.
we had the Noir edition available, and some people would buy it because they never got #1. They just wanted to read it.
Stories in there.
But other people would be like, no, I don't want the black and white one.
And I would always kind of I'd offer it as an option to people. Like, you can get the stories there, but if you can wait until the end of the month, you can get the full color version. We'll have copies in stock. Which, I mean, I hope they last a little while, but I'm nervous we're not going to have enough.
Did they just announce 4th print?
They announced a 4th print because
Yeah.
the 3rd print is already sold
Yeah.
out.
I think it's great that people are still finding these. I think
I love
that
it. I think people are going to keep doing it for the next few months.
yeah, and we're going to have to keep digging. We're really closing in on being out of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and I mean, the 2nd print of that, I think, is this week. And we only did 10 copies because at the time, once again, when we were doing the orders for the new printings, we had a ton of the previous printing. So it's this isn't a big deal. But then you give it 3 weeks and it's like, oh, they kept selling and now we're almost out.
And
So I think they've announced, maybe they've announced a 3rd print for Absolute Wonder Woman #1. So we would probably dip on that and see if we can get, another chunk of copies back in.
we are out of All In.
Yeah, finally.
But there have been a couple of times when I bring people up and they're just buying Absolute Wonder Woman #1, Absolute Superman #1, Absolute Batman #2, All In. I'm like, that's great. I want you to get these. I want you to be excited. But there's more than just that. Try some of the All In books.
Yeah, well, I think people will, and obviously it'd be nice if they were doing it now when we had them in stock and had already paid for them. But I think it's going to be easier to get people to check out a lot of that stuff on the week they're not getting 3 other books. And so if they're just coming in for Absolute Batman #3, it's kind of easier to go, hey, either they are in the new this week section and they see some #1s or whatever, or you can go, hey, if you're enjoying Absolute Batman, have you been reading Tom Taylor and Mikkel Yannen's Detective Comics? That's really
I was
good
just going
right
to bring
now.
that up because I thought that we'd have a pretty good follow through of people who are reading Nightwing,
No.
jumping over to Detective.
So this is the thing that I think I brought up on the 2nd week of the All-In releases. Anything that wasn't a #1, no one cared. No one really wanted to sample it. You could say over and over again, it's a good jumping on point. It's you don't have to have read anything before it, but people see a number other than 1 and it's like a barrier to them. They can't do it. They are unbelievably resistant to that.
But I mean, people that were reading Nightwing, I thought, hey, this is a stylistic,
seemed like a layup.
yeah.
No big deal.
Granted, it's not Dick Grayson. It is
Batman, who is arguably more well known and popular, but okay.
and it's not as happy, but you don't do Batman happy.
Right.
Can't make Batman happy. Sure, you can. Let him beat up homeless people.
Oh no,
That's what he does.
That's terrible.
Dress up in leather, beat up homeless people.
Weird.
That's how Bob Kane created him.
Seems like what Bob Kane would do. Yes.
Yeah. I want to, and I don't think I'll get it done in time. I'm losing a week. I'm losing a week of my time. So I started everything early, but I'm not going to get back to it for a while. I want to make a little holiday guide, like have everybody at Challengers pick a book people should buy as a gift.
Okay.
And then it's time to start worrying about our year-end picks as well.
Oh, okay.
You know how we did your favorite book of last year?
Sure.
How the store's pick overall was Do a Powerbomb.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, everybody had to pick their favorite graphic novel of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You started by doing like, here's my top 5.
Oh, okay.
And then everybody did a couple. Then I had to do the math to figure out what the point structure was to what the
Sure.
overall was.
Okay.
So while Do a Powerbomb was the Challengers pick of the year, it was no one single Challengers pick of the year.
Okay.
But it made it
made
because
everyone's
it was
list?
everybody's runner-up
Sure.
kind of thing. So yeah, I want to work on a gift guide. I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, hey, what's yours now? But I want you to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I usually will just defer to what we have on the front table and what's something that's semi-recent. I'm trying to think of something that's on the front table that
There
we
were-
recently put there.
For a while in the history of Challengers, there was always a good Christmas seller,
Yeah.
like a good book that anybody could give as a gift. And then that stopped being a thing.
Yeah, which I mean, I think is maybe to the credit to the industry that there's so many books that we can point at where, like, you know, is it going to be Somna? Is it going to be Ultimate Spider-Man? Is it going to be Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees? Is it going to be something funny that I can't remember right now? But like, there's a lot of good options.
Yeah, I think Somna is a gorgeous book, but it's a tough thing to say, oh, this is a great Christmas present.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I would think of.
Do you like The Devil?
Yeah, Krampus.
No,
There's
I was asking you personally. Do you like The Devil?
in certain ways. There's definitely books that I think are maybe would skew a little bit more towards a holiday thing. I think Ultimate Spider-Man or Ultimate X-Men maybe. Ultimate Spider-Man maybe. I think it's a good, especially for adult comic fans or adult nerds that don't read comics, because it's like, well, it's middle-aged, midlife crisis Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's the sort of twist on it that is more appealing to older fans than younger fans.
Speaking of being this close to the holidays, the first week of December has 5 holiday anthology releases.
Great.
And when I say has 5, I mean that's how many Challengers is carrying. It's 1 from DC, 1 from Marvel, 1 from Image, 1 from Dark Horse, and 1 from Archie. There's at least 5 others that we're not stocking that are also coming out that week.
Yep. It's a very abbreviated holiday season, so a lot of that stuff has to come out pretty much the first week of December or not at all.
But I don't remember everybody going all in on this. And there's still at least one more Image one that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
Or that isn't out that week. I don't know why everybody does horror anthologies now for every holiday. It's so weird.
I guess it's easier to get horror fans to buy that stuff than it is any other genre. Like if you're just doing like Christmas stuff, I think a lot of people either don't need extra of that in their lives, or it maybe has a more limited shelf life as opposed to horror stuff where, you know, you can apparently sell Deviant all year long. Imagine if that had a collection, an all-in-one collection for Deviant. Maybe that would be the Christmas book.
Yeah. I can't believe that they didn't have one done in time. It's not done yet.
I know.
It's not done.
It's so weird.
Maybe it should be Batman Santa Claus.
Yeah, that is coming out.
That's so weird it's coming out now when that book ended Christmas last year.
It sort of makes sense because while you could have released the trade in like February or March, why bother?
Yeah, but you could
Why
have released
not
it
wait
a little
until December?
earlier.
Maybe November would have been nicer. Especially when you're promoting the new series, which is shipping weekly. Like having that trade out before FOCs maybe would have been nice to get people to read the first one and be excited about the next one and start to pre-order it. That would have been cool.
Well, that's why we're in sales and not in publishing.
That's true.
Dal, I want to thank you for
You're welcome, Patrick.
giving everybody the gift of you on your birthday.
You're very welcome, Patrick.
Specifically you in this podcast.
Yes.
And as one final present, because I've already given you all your presents,
Yay.
except for one. You have one final present that I'm giving you
Okay.
today.
I'm ready.
You don't have to do a podcast next week.
Aw, it's the best gift I got all day.
Right? I figure it would be. Next week's podcast, in theory, I have absolutely no idea. It doesn't exist. It is not.
Good theory.
It is not a tangible thing yet, but it should be a little bit off of the beaten path because I myself will be off of the beaten path. So I will.
Patrick will be deep beneath the earth in a subterranean cavern.
I gotta find some more Godzilla stuff.
That's where you find him, close
Right.
to the Earth's core.
That's right. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
We will be open on. We'll close Thanksgiving Thursday. We'll be open on Friday the 29th. Yeah, 29th, 30th, and 1st of December. We will have a half off back issues, incentive cover, and ratio variant sale.
Yep.
So
the in-store portion is all of that. The online portion is just the incentive and ratio variants. We don't have back issues on our website. So if you are missing any ratio variants or incentive variants and you want to get them on the cheap, this is the time to do it.
They're all going to be half off.
That sale is going to start 11 a.m. Central Time on the Friday after Thanksgiving. I don't think there's a good name for that, but let's just call it the Friday after Thanksgiving.
There you have it. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
See you in a few weeks.
Bye.
Hear me in a few weeks. No, I'm pretty sure you're going to hear me next week.
Probably.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.